Today, on Noon, we feature two remarkable brothers and my friends, Mike and Greg, who are both firefighters, paramedics, and experienced providers. In this episode, they'll share their valuable insights gained from their journeys. Expect a blend of the fun and camaraderie that they bring to their work, the heartfelt reflections on the significance of family in their lives, and a great time between friends. Let's get started. All right, guys, so thank you so much for joining me on today's 911 Nonsense podcast. I've got a double team here, two brothers, Michael and Greg. Go ahead and start with an introduction if you don't mind, please.
Hi, I'm Mike Ochoa, driver for the fire department and paramedic.
I'm Greg Ochoa, lieutenant for the fire department, also a paramedic.
How long have you guys been working?
Actually, everybody always thinks that Greg's the older brother because he started a year before I did.
Oh.
Yeah, so everyone thinks that since he's the lieutenant, I'm just a driver, he started before me. So he's been in for going on 19 years. 18.
So you guys are almost done.
Kind of.
I want to say we will be eligible soon.
Yeah, that's the best way to say.
But as far as being done, that tends to be decided by my family and insurance needs and things like that.
Sure.
But yeah, 18 years for me, and Mike was former military, so he's had 17 years with the fire department, but he had his time in the military, and that's what he did too. So He has more time doing this stuff than I do.
I'm at 25 plus years of, I guess, medicine, emergency medicine type stuff.
But oddly enough, we also went to Peace School together.
Yeah.
Which
I think we were the first brothers to finish Peace School together.
Largely, he was the reason I was successful completing Peace School because we were competitive.
Yeah.
I would say so.
I beat him almost in every test, and then he got the last laugh because he beat me in the National Registry by like a lot. His stopped questioning him in the 90s or something like that, and mine sort of creeped up towards the hundreds.
So. Oh, and that's so nerve-wracking.
I started panicking.
Did you take the computer-based test?
Yes.
Yeah, that was scary, huh?
When it stops, and like I had also talked to another fireman who was taking it at the same time I was, and it stopped on us, and we walked out. We both had that like look of you're like I failed.
Shit.
I only got two. I was like at 96 or something on my questions, and I don't remember what he had, but I was like I failed because I mean I knew I missed some of them, or I knew I kind of the close your eyes and throw the dart.
Yes.
And like got that right. So there's a few times I failed. I failed.
My last question on the test was, what is the term for somebody who doesn't have enough oxygen? And I was like, I failed. Yeah. That was the easiest question, and that was my last question. I think I stopped at 85. I was like, I failed.
That's it.
I failed.
That's so simple.
But I didn't. It was neat. Yeah. And the same thing, too, I don't know if you guys have looked into critical care at all, but I just took my FPC, so it's my flight paramedic certification, and I passed on the first try, which is like a 60% pass rate, I believe.
Oh, wow.
And that was scary. I like cried every day up until that test. Yeah, that was rough. Yeah.
That's a ton of stress. And like at some point you get a lot of experience, you get a lot of knowledge, you have a ton of resources, including mistakes that you may or may not make on the job. But I worry about a little bit of complacency on those sorts of.
Oh yeah, like if you asked me what gluconeogenesis is right now, I couldn't. I couldn't even spell it, know. So
I couldn't spell it.
Yeah,
I'm impressed you could say it.
Yeah, the only reason why I remember that is because our instructor had no idea what it was, and so gluconeogenesis, gluconeogenolysis, and I can't remember what the other one was, but those literally, like to this day. If somebody asked me what it was, I was like, I have not a clue.
Yeah, no idea.
That's funny because we had a extremely experienced paramedic try and regain his national registry the year that we took it, and he took the hands-on portion. What is that? The practical portion of the test with us. And I guess he didn't do well on that one. And then he had to retake the written and didn't do well on that one. So like they were going to have to wait another school for him to actually retry.
Oh, that's
so
rough.
They had to like try and give him the opportunity to do it, and it just happened to coincide with our class.
Yeah.
So he took the test with us, and it didn't pass it. And only recently I was like, maybe I should try and regain my national registry.
I did too.
If it's not required for your job.
But you know what the thing is that I want to make sure that if I do retire, that I can at least have something to, if
Fall
I
back
need,
on.
if I need it or whatever, I can use it. Because I know that's the other thing about paramedicine is that it's not just transport based or the fire department. There are other jobs out there that you can do.
The clinical section.
Yeah, we worked at the jail for a while as well. Kind of moonlighted at the jail.
Yeah,
And
I saw that they have a couple of positions open right now.
Oh, they called me. Out, yeah. They called and asked me, and I was like, no, I'm good. Yeah, the jail makes you hard. It really jades you. Yeah,
and that's a funny thing is a lot of people don't think that we would get along because despite being brothers, we have a lot of differences in our personality. And the funny thing is that I can work great with him. Of course, there's times where he gets my goat. Nobody on the planet could possibly anger me like him. But we worked well together at the jail.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like that was a good thing. But I felt like I had a ton of patience, and he just was clearing people so much faster than I was. And it usually had to do with something like that because of his, I want to say, being forward.
Yeah. When it came to the jail, I was very much, okay, I have an interview I have to do with you. I have questions I have to do with you. I have all this kind of fun stuff.
And he was thorough and so much faster at it than I was. And I thought I had a ton of patience, but I started to realize that a lot of people were playing games with me because they could read that on me, like, that blood in the water.
The jail was interesting because of that as well, because when you walk in, you might pass a couple of inmates as you're walking in, and I noticed, and somebody had kind of told me, but I had also noticed when I was there, we wouldn't get emergencies because their emergencies sometimes weren't emergencies.
They knew better.
They're bored, and I want to go to sick bay or I want to do that kind of stuff. And they wouldn't do it with me because I had an old trick that I would do that my dad used to do to us, which was lecture you for an hour as to why you're in trouble or why you're, so they would come in with chest pain or they would come in with, something like that. And I would literally go through a quick 12-lead school with them and tell you, okay, look, this is your heartbeat. This is, the electrical output of your heart. And this is your QRS. This is your... your
and then
I can just see you doing
their
this.
eyes would glaze over and they'd start crossing.
Yeah. So this is why I'm not sending you to the hospital because there's nothing wrong. So, here's an antacid and everything like that. If something changes, you can always come back. But as of right now, I'm not seeing any reason for you to have to go to the hospital.
Sure.
And but with Greg, sometimes he was more like, okay, you know what, let's just do it to be...
Yeah, to cover our bases.
Type thing. And so
a little more conservative.
Yeah. So when they would see us come in, they were like, okay, maybe I won't go to the hospital. Yeah, maybe I'm not going to do it.
Maybe next weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. And what is the age difference between you guys?
3 years.
About 2.5 years.
And you can tell that you're close. You could by sitting across from you guys and hearing the way that you talk and the way that you look at each other, you can tell that you're really close.
I mean, he's my best friend. There's no denying that, but like I said, we grew up in such close proximity that we kind of know each other's triggers.
Sure.
And for the most part, 90% of the time, we're great. Which is, again, like, we have worked together in the field, and it goes well. It goes like the jail.
Yeah.
It was fun.
I don't have to talk to Greg to feel and know what's going on. I can, if it's happiness or anger or anxiety or whatever, I know my brother to that point, so I could stick to, okay, he knows that I'm doing this, or I'm going to do this, I know he's going to ask for these, set of vitals, or,
sure.
He's going to want this. So, yeah, geez, a little louder maybe?
There's a wrong pipe.
So yeah, so there when we do that, it's easy for me to be able to, I don't have to take dictation from him. I don't have to have him ask for certain things because I know what he's going to want.
And then when people have like family members in the department and then tell us they're not like incredibly close, it's so incredibly
weird,
foreign to
us. It's not even, I wouldn't say weird,
we're a little too into each other's business.
So do you guys have, was your dad or grandpa or anybody in the fire department?
Both were.
Yes.
Both were. Okay, so you're in a long line then.
Yeah. We're probably never, I don't say probably, we're never going to reach the level Grandpa was. He was a deputy chief. We weren't particularly close with him or anything like that. But Dad got in quite a long time after Grandpa retired. And he was in for 23 years?
Yeah.
Okay. And we got to work with him a little bit too.
Yeah, that was one of my first calls. I got to work with my dad, and I got to see how he worked, and it was a little weird because you want to call him Lieutenant Dad or that kind of stuff.
He made me call him Lieutenant. He's like, that's Lieutenant. He is so ridiculously dry in his humor, so I didn't know whether or not he was kidding. And no, he was dead serious. He wanted me to call him Lieutenant. Yeah. I was like, Dad, Lieutenant Daddy?
Lieutenant Daddy?
Yeah. I don't know what to go here. Yeah. I don't know.
And then he worked on at station for such a long time, and that was kind of dealing with the clientele in that area. So
he was central hub for the unhoused population.
Yeah. So my story is to see him. Well, was a kind of a belligerent patient, and I'm trying to be a good rookie, and I was trying to take a BGL on the guy, and he kept pulling his hand away and pull his hand away. Just being a Richard Cranium, and and my dad, when he barked at him, hey, let my guy do what he has to do, type thing. That I'm the one that was more, I was flinching more. I was like, you better, he's gonna spank you,
Dude, he's crazy.
Yeah.
You don't understand.
Yeah, so that was one of those ones. I was like, I think I have some childhood trauma that I have to get over. I might not be able to work with you very much.
Which is funny because, we have a relationship with each other. We have a different relationship with our parents. Some good, some bad. But, my dad is similar to me. And it's probably one of the things that bugs him the most about me when we do get on each other's nerves is I'm like my father. And
I'm like our mom was. My mom was very, she didn't, here'll be my first F-bomb. My mom didn't fuck around.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no, she came from Nebraska, small town in Nebraska, and they like to fight, fuck, and drink. So, if they weren't doing one of those other two.
I hate to say that out loud, but that is 100%
from Nebraska.
Yeah.
In this tiny town in Nebraska.
God, yeah. So, she was always, she would speak her mind, and she would say it how she wanted to say it,
with as little reservation as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
And really no delay in anything. She didn't have to think. She's just so ridiculously quick.
Yeah.
Which I'm not, so.
And I am. I'm quick to temper, so when it comes to things, I'm
quick-witted.
I wouldn't say let's not say witted.
Yeah. I don't think we could either be described as witty. But
so how did your mom feel when you both ended up in the fire department?
Wow. So
I'm waiting for him to answer that because Mike had a little bit more of an adventure than I did. I was kind of the I'm going to use his term. He calls me a wiener. You're always such a wiener when it comes to this kind of thing. I'm like, great. But it's because I stuck close to home. I tried the college thing. I didn't branch out, and he did at 18. Mike went to the military, so it was kind of us trying to find ourselves in very, very different ways. So in that vein, I decided to go to the fire department, and to be completely honest, it was because I got to mess around a little bit more on shift, on scene. I would be totally professional, but when we go to the station, we get to kind of hang out and do our hobbies and stuff like that while we're waiting for calls.
Sure.
Depending on where you are.
You get a little bit of autonomy and free time. And
you do get a ton of autonomy. Within reason, you can entertain yourself at the station. And a lot of people do, and they have jobs and like side things that they do. And when I heard that I could do one of my favorite hobbies, which is, I'm going to be honest, is video gaming. As soon as I found out you could video game at the station, I was like, that is the best job ever.
Secrets out.
Why did I not know this? And, that's why it made me want to do it. And it was actually so much harder than I thought it was. I was like, I just have to pass these tests, no problem. It was a lot more physical, and there was a lot more didactic learning that you could go through. And then when he got in, we were both sort of interested in paramedicine, so that's what kind of led to that. But, I stayed close to home. I was super close with my parents. I lived with them for far too long. And so my mom was like super supportive. And, she's like, if that's going to make you happy, I'm in, I'll help you. And if I'm being honest, in the academy, people struggle. They have families to support. You don't get paid a ton, or at the time we didn't.
Yeah, the pay increase has jumped significantly, which is really cool.
It's still pretty tough. It's not an easy, like I don't think I believe anybody who says, well, I did the academy by myself. I don't know about it. There's always some sort of support that
you need.
And if not, then that person is really kind of squared away and tight. But most people in the department had somebody or some sort of support.
Well, and they boast as this academy being one of the hardest.
Oh, everybody's academy was the hardest.
Everybody says that.
And it's we can't take away that it is tough. It is tough.
Yeah.
And it's tough for several different reasons. You kind of have to knuckle down. You have to be good. You have to make sure that you understand that you're entering like a career, and then you're heavily scrutinized, and we sort of got that.
Yeah, I had military behind me. It was Air Force, so it wasn't like real military, but
Jesus.
hey man, I'm
military life.
Yeah.
I didn't even go in. So I have no
you ask a Marine, they'll roll their eyes. You ask a Navy guy, and they're like, "Wow, you passed the test." So yeah. That's the way it is.
Jeez.
That's any time that I'm talking with other people from other branches of the military. It's like, I passed my ASVAB. You ate the crayon. That's why you made it to the Marines. So I don't want to hear your shit. But that's in the military. We make fun of each other for those reasons.
Yeah.
So. But I did have sort of a kind of an inkling as to what it was. To kind of bounce off the question that you had asked. For me, it was a little different. I will say that I have probably failed more things than people have tried. And in the military, one of the things that I wanted to do is I actually wanted to be a therapist. I like psychology, and I think it's one of the
I could see that from you.
Yeah. So unfortunately, the military had different ideas, and once you're kind of sold to it, they get to do whatever they want with you.
Sure.
So I actually became a dental tech. And it was like it was one of those things where everyone's like, "You're a dental tech? You're a dentist?" I'm like, "No, I'm not a dentist. I'm a dental tech." And then once I got to Japan, I got specialized training, which actually kind of incorporated a lot of the emergency medical training and stuff, ACLS, basic BLS type stuff, and all that and everything. So I had really found that I was good at it, but I was good at it, but it's like I don't. I'm good at this, but I just don't really want to do it. So again, trying to fight fate and do everything else. I'm still here. I'm still a paramedic, so we'll see how well that went. But yeah, I wanted to try different things. I always try to do something more. I always try to do something different. And my mom always said that I was a jumper. You were the type of one that looks a little bit and then just jumps right on in. You see how deep it is. You don't see how far down it is. You're just like, yeah, let's jump. And so when I got into the fire department,
it was a year after me. By the way. just so everybody's clear on that, I got in a year first.
That was her thing. Was she's like, well, if you're gonna do this, then you need to stick with it. It's a good job. It's going to thing, and you're good at it. This should be.
Yeah, don't
this
fuck
is your
around.
thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So this is what God gave you is basically what she would say with me, and I've been doing it ever since. It's when I retire, I'm pretty sure I won't. pretty sure I won't do anything with patients or EMS type stuff. I probably will go off to do something else just because I feel like I've earned my wings to.
You've done your due diligence.
Exactly.
That's ends up being the difference. Which I still kind of quite enjoy a lot of the job. There's you did it. You know there's
still do
a ton of frustrating portions of it, but I still enjoy quite a bit. And by comparison, I sort of lived more of a charmed life than Mike. And I got to be the little brother. I got to be the youngest out of our family. Now, incidentally, I'm the middle because I have a little brother and a little sister as well. But out of the three of us that grew up together, is our oldest sister.
Yeah, we had an older sister. I don't know if we had mentioned that, but we were three peas in a pod.
Mm-hmm.
My sister's was a brain, I was the brawn, and Greg was the tattletale.
It's always the youngest. That's right.
Yeah, Greg was like.
They say that, but like we weren't master criminals. We were caught. They didn't start asking me because they didn't suspect it.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Like
I told.
If the camera, it would be on my sister, and they would ask her, "Did you do it?" And she would say, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And the camera would pan over, and there I would be still smoking, my eyebrows burnt off, soot all over my face, and they would ask, "Did you do it?" And I don't know what you're talking about. And then it would pan over to Greg, and
I'd be sweating buckets. Yeah,
sweating buckets. And they say, "Did you?" And he'd be like, "They did it." And he would watch us get punished, and he'd be like, "Okay, I'm just gonna sit right here and be quiet." Yeah,
it's so wrong. No, I didn't. It always seemed like I got lightest punishment, though. I will say that
because he was. I mean, it's just like it's a plea deal. He's like, if I get a little less,
if I tell you,
yes,
you're not gonna hit me nearly as hard, right?
3 swats and they get the 5, right?
Yeah. But to answer your question, like going back, I think our mom was proud of us, and she knew us to an obscene level. It was just so weird how in tune she was with her kids, and she knew that when we got in, we started doing the job, that we'd do a good job. We'd improve upon the groundwork that our grandfather and dad sort of made, and she had a lot of faith in us, and it was actually really a good thing for us because Mom was just all support. She was all in,
and she knew how to support you too, which was also important.
She's coming from such a long line, also.
Yeah. So for me, it would be, well, quit acting like a pussy, and you're like, okay, I'm sorry.
All right, I'm sorry.
Get your shit together and do it. And then with Greg, she'd be a little bit more like, come on, you got this. You can do this type thing. And then every now and then it would switch up, and she would say something to Greg, but it was because she knew that I need to kind of that punch type thing. So she was always good about that kind of stuff.
She knew us down to those little idiosyncrasies that would just push us just enough to get us to do that next level, including paramedic school, which was a funny thing because we went together. I went twice, so I kind of was resentful of my first one because the minimum passing score was 80 and I got a 79 on cardiac block, so I was furious with myself.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
And then I had the next class, they threw me out after that one. So I lived a charmed life. So I got to try again. Life. And not only did I get to try again, I got to try again with Mike, and he sort of pushed me because a lot of people say these derogatory things. They say these things about Mike
just say it.
being stupid. And I was like, I've never known my brother to be dumb. I know, we're silly. We joke around on scene. We do a lot of stuff, but at no point have I ever thought that this guy was dumb. And he made these wonderful competition in P school because he would get high scores on the test, and oddly enough, it would surprise people, but it never surprised me, and I got to sort of shoot for that. And it made, like I said, I got a 79 on cardiac block. I never got below 90 in P school. And, it was really a lot of it to do with him. He'd make me study. I would much rather have gotten home and played Call of Duty. But, he would make me push myself, and I need that. Mom would know that. Mike knows that. And it made for quite a lot easier experience in paramedic school.
Greg doesn't give himself a lot of credit. The best way I always see it is didactically. Greg's very intelligent. Greg's the type of guy who can read something, and it could be the most arbitrary thing in the whole wide world. And then, like 3 years later,
just pull it from memory.
Pull it, and you're like, what? Where did you get that from? Oh, you don't remember reading that in this? So that was Greg. In the class, he would, they would put something up on the board, and Greg could read it, and then he could understand it and know it. My talents,
and forget it.
Yeah, my talents were. I think I'm more of a kinesthetic learner.
Mm-hmm.
Show me how to do it. I can, through the military, I know how to do sutures. I was able to reduce dislocations and stuff like that. It's stuff that I learned in the military, but I'm very hands-on. So,
sure.
When I miss an IV, it bothers the shit out of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm
like,
the same way. I'm like, I'm going to try one more time.
Yeah. And it was one of those ones where, I know, okay, I missed an IV and it's been about 4 months. And so, and then everyone looks at you and they're like, well, you got to get this one. And you're like, shit. And then you get it, you're like, okay, thank God.
Dude, in my job, we don't do IVs hardly at all. So I started an IV the other day, and it had been the first time in like a year and a half, and I was like, yeah.
See, I'm kind of in that boat, because I've been with the partner I have now for 7 years.
You could drop his name.
Yeah, Brandon McKinstry. He's a fantastic paramedic, and there's a lot of parallels between him and Mike. And like I said, he's my best friend, so it kind of clicked for me and Brandon.
I'm not gonna lie, I get a little jealous.
I could tell. I could see you steaming over there.
Yeah, a little bit. It's just he said, "Oh, Brandon does this."
Yeah.
Brandon, I'm like,
that's not what Brandon would have done.
Fucking marry him.
I would, but I'm already married.
Yeah.
But he's very good at his job, and I've come to rely on him a lot. And sometimes it's too much because, like you said, these are perishable skills. So you go and try an IV or an ET tube, something that you have not ever performed in months or years, because the opportunity doesn't come around, because the advancements in technology, LMAs came around, and it not only became simpler, but it became something that a lower licensure was able to do and secure this airway and make things quick and smooth. But, ET tubes have their place. And if there is one to get, Brandon gets it. Mike gets it because he's a driver. So they're those hands-on people, and they're fucking ridiculously experienced at it. So you can tell they're going to get that IV. They're going to get that ET tube. They're going to do the IOs and darts and all the fun things that you do that are terrible.
I got to write the report.
And I have to write the stupid report. And I go to do those things, and I'm doing that same thing. Like, shit, it's been like 6 months since I've done this. I cleaned it, right?
I
cleaned my side. Did I clean my side?
Yeah, I will say with him, Greg has always been, which is probably why he didn't get spanked as much as the rest of us. He was always good at I see it, I can identify it. I have the three, and I kind of stole it from I think it was it might have been the Marines, but it's the three. We accept, we adapt, we overcome. You accept the situation for what it is, not what it could be, not what you want it to be, but what is standing right in front of you. And you adapt to it. And you okay, how do I work this problem? Okay, well, this is how we're going to do this. And then we overcome it. All right, now let's put it into practice. Let's put it into play. And then we move on. And when I do work with Greg, that's you see it. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not going to be a lieutenant, is because I can do things and I can be a good leader and I can do that kind of stuff, I don't want the responsibility. And I hate when I get those calls that aren't, cookie cutter, cut and dry calls. It's, grandma is in a house with 18 cats and there's cat shit everywhere and she doesn't want to go in, and you have to, you're trying to convince her to go in, but she's cognizant and she's there, you know what I mean? But she's also walking around literally in inches of cat shit.
Yeah. Family's on the way.
Yeah, and family wants her to go in, but she can't do it, and all this other stuff. And he has, you have to make the hard decision. And for me, it was like I I don't want to make these decisions. I was like, I'll let the lieutenant make that.
In that vein, I'm kind of becoming a little more, also like my father, I'm becoming Oscar the Grouch. It's kind of getting bad at this point because I'm so entrenched in my ways, and leading on a scene, you can see what you want to do. You can see the path to the best possible outcome for a patient. Maybe even clearing a scene in lieu of transport is treatment, because it makes sense. Not farting around, not redoing assessments, not just messing with the base that's already been laid for you. And if you do it right, if you do it, it's done the way that you want it correctly. And I'm sort of becoming less tolerant when people don't do it that way.
I'm sorry, but after 18, 19 years, that's allowed.
And then
I just don't want to be a dick to, there's so many moving parts to the way that EMS is structured here that I don't want to be a jerk to people. I do come across as an asshole sometimes, but I don't want to. I'm a little more sensitive. I tend to doubt myself after the call's done. I know perfectly well that I did the call right. He says it. I do see it. I do see where we're going to go. But then I sit there and say, maybe this wasn't that.
It's quicksand. There's the thing where you put it down on paper. 2 + 2 = 4. And the moment that somebody comes up and they're like, "That's wrong," you look at it.
Really?
No, that's 2 + 2. That's 4, right? Yeah. And that little bit of doubt, especially when you're making decent calls, that looks like AFib, or that looks like what is that? And you're and then they're like, no, that's not. And
you're making those decisions.
And then you have to, and at that point you kind of get a little kerfuffled with it. And for someone like me, it's like I've always I tell my son all the time, and he could tell you, I'm always right, even when I'm wrong. I'm right. And he takes it as, well, that's you just being an arrogant jerk. It's like, no, the thought process that I put into my decisions are based off the facts as I know them as they are right now. So the decision that I made, even if it's wrong, was based off of these facts and the reason why I felt like I was right. So even when I was wrong, I was right to a certain point. Now that doesn't mean that I'm not wrong. It just means that if I made a mistake, it was based off of something that I didn't have in front of me, or I didn't think about, or I didn't consider.
Missing knowledge.
Yeah. And you get a lot of people that take that as arrogance. They're, well, everybody can be wrong. It's like, yes, I get that. But, this is why and you get those people that sometimes when you get a second set of eyes on something, and, they're reading the strip and they're like, well, it says this and this right here. You're like, oh yeah, I didn't see that part. Yeah. And I think that's where sometimes you start to, I wouldn't say doubt yourself, but you get a little nervous as
definitely second guess.
Yes, that's second guessing.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in that same thread, the thing I am worst at is saying that I was wrong and kind of apologizing for it. So it is something that is if I've ever been a jerk to anybody that actually is listening, I'm sorry.
Yeah, this podcast was a big apology letter.
That's why you reached out. So we had talked a little bit about how you guys are in the fire service earlier. Do you have any calls that are your like absolute favorite calls? Like something that just makes you happy when you think about it?
You know what? For me, that's another podcaster. My thing is I know they're scary, but labor and delivery. Mm-hmm. Those calls are always fun because you're like every call we go to, there are some pleasant calls where even if Nana is sick, people are still pleasant to you, but everybody's worried because Nana's sick, or Nana's having chest pain, or Nana threw up, or something like that happened. But when you get a call and someone downloads a baby, and then it's like Mazel Tov, and everybody's happy, and you know what I mean, and they're patting you on the back, and they like, you don't usually get those kind of things for calls, you know what I mean, and they're asking you your name, they're gonna name you, like it's a girl, but if you want to name Mike, go ahead. You know what I mean? But it's good name. Yeah, but it's that kind of stuff that always tickles me when we go to those calls, and we had one that was pretty recent, and it was so much so that the dad's happy to cut the cord, and we're taking care of mom and baby now and everything like that, and you still have to be professional, but it's a happy kind of professional. It's a very, and that's always my favorite ones, and I've had a few. So I when we get there, you're nervous, you want to make sure that everything's okay, but as the call goes on and everything is okay, I'm like, I'm happy to have you. This is one of those calls where you walk away and you're like, yes.
And yet now you're part of that family.
Exactly. Yeah, you get to be part of that little bit of history there, and I always like that. The one thing I will say, I've noticed I don't like being videotaped or with pictures. That always creeps me out. Like, that's the one where I'm like, you're
gonna be blurred on this, right?
Yeah, no, it scares me. It's like some of they used to say some Native Americans were like, don't take pictures because they want their soul,
their spirit,
spiritual. And I feel that way. It's like, I wonder how many pictures how many iPhones I'm there with
on the
picking
news,
my nose, something like that.
Yeah.
Oh God, it drives me nuts. Yeah, so I don't like that, but I have been on one call where they did take our, they took a quick picture.
It's like a group.
Things. Yeah, it was a little cute thing. So I like that. That's my favorite kind of call.
Yeah, I mean, you're part of that kid's life now forever.
I was just saying.
That's the picture they're gonna. And that's one thing. Is like cameras have become a hindrance in today's EMS world, but it's also become such a cool thing, right? Just. They didn't have cameras like this when we were younger, like I have one baby picture of me, and that's like, and pictures were kind of popular at that age, but it's I think it's cool now. And now, well, with the nieces and the nephews, we've got 1,000 pictures before the age of 1,
A lot more documentation. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
There's not really like one call. I'm so negative because I tend to remember all the bad calls or how I felt.
Well, we remember
Pissed
the
off.
emotions, yeah.
But I do remember quite a few highs. There's been at least 3 babies we've delivered, all recently, by the way. It was like 15 years before I actually delivered a baby in the field. But the most recent, we were kind of dispatched out to someone that was by themselves in their apartment, and you kind of get dispatched out and you're like, okay, they've got a couple minutes, and they didn't mention crowning or any water breaking or anything like that. And we showed up instantly. The call that I feel best about, I did the least on. And, I documented pretty much. And my partner, my crew, caught the baby, cut the cord, did everything hard. We showed up and we asked, do you feel an urge to push? All that fun stuff. And there was definite crowning. So Brandon sort of just kind of jumped in the action. He started ordering people around. He was telling me what we were doing. I started ordering some stuff based on what he was saying, and just the fact that it went so smooth in such a short period of time. Because if you've been on any delivery, they're not short a lot.
No.
They're actually kind of laborious, which is why it's called labor. But this one was short. It was super short. She waited until the last possible moment. And, we had this perfect little brand new person out into the world. And we did all that shit before the transport agency had even arrived. And it wasn't a long time. It was a really, really quick call. And like I said, just the fact that it went so smooth, and those are those calls that are few and far between. So if you get them right, you get them really right.
Yeah, it feels good.
It feels
Like
great.
high fiving after that.
Yeah.
Then you realize
Walking back to the
changed your
truck.
gloves.
Yeah.
We're hugging. But yeah, we that feeling, that pervading feeling that you really, really did well on this high acuity call that you don't get often, and you just that get that sense of satisfaction that you really, really, truly know your craft.
And it is a serious call. I mean, obviously, you're having this little guy coming.
Got a lot of potential, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Got a lot of
stuff to
potential.
go wrong and everything, and it doesn't. And a little anecdote off of mine. I had one where the lady, was gravida, I want to say like 4, para 3. So, I mean, she had downloaded a whole bunch of kids, you know.
So she had 3 babies and was pregnant on her 4th one.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Oh, great.
You're good.
I was about to ask.
And we all know, and we all know that it happens faster. So we were coming in, and you know, it's hop, and everyone's kind of doing their stuff, and I just was able to lay down the chalk and kind of, and she's like, I gotta push. I was like, okay. So she goes to push, and she gave like 2 big grunts and shot that kid into my chest, and I felt like you know what I mean? And she about sent me on my ass, and that was one of those moments where like she I was like, good for you, lady. I was like, God damn, you know. But she hit me with that kid.
Shot that out like a champagne.
Yeah, you know, and then you have a fucking little lizard that's turning 7 different colors and crying at you.
You know, people say it's so beautiful, but like if you've ever seen a live birth, you can have a thought on it. But some of it's
pretty gross.
Honestly, that's when I always laugh and joke about it. It's like, well, you know, you ask somebody why do we always send the dads to go boil water and tear towels? And they're like, well, because it's clean. And we're like, no, it's just to get him the hell out of there so he doesn't pass out and make another patient.
Yeah.
You know, because this is it's a dirty scene that you're on, you know. It's just messy.
Was ushered out of the room while they were doing, not for the births, while they were doing the epidural on my wife, and I was pissed off because I don't get those queasy feelings, even if it's like someone I love that's experiencing something like that. I just don't get it. And he's called me a psychopath more than sometimes because I don't. And for all these deliveries that we do in the field, that's what I think. It's like, oh man, this is like a lot. This is a lot of gross stuff, a lot of amniotic fluid, a lot of stuff. And I always say my kids' births were beautiful. Everybody else is a train wreck, but my kids' stuff. And you know, that might not be like the right way to take it, but in that thread, I had a patient like that, and I didn't realize it was going to be that, because it was like the worst case scenario for a birth. It was like a drug addict, and it sort of caught us by surprise because we thought we had time, so we initiated transport, and I wrote in, and I was like, this is probably going to be one of those things where we do some work. Maybe, you know, give some meds that we don't, like bag or something like that. A complication because she had no prenatal care, and we didn't realize she was a drug addict. And we started getting ready to deliver this child, and I started looking for access. I started looking for a vein to put an IV in, and she's got track marks everywhere. And I was like,
oh, no.
When's the last time you showed up? She's like, 2 hours ago. And I was like, crap, heroin precipitates birth. Yeah. And this is going to be sooner, much sooner than we thought. And I had time enough to think that before the other paramedic was like, I got crowning.
Oh no.
So then we had just the regular gloves. He started, thank God he kind of kept his head, and I was already doing other tasks, so he was in the best position to catch anyway. So he had the wherewithal to actually like glove up and get all the gown and stuff like that. But that one, I just remember surprising me and knowing enough to know this is definitely not going to be the call that you thought it was. It's not going to be us transporting and barely making it to the hospital before they deliver. She's going to deliver right now.
Yeah, this is happening.
Yeah.
You know what's always funny about the EMS gods is that, you know, the old, you know, whatever's can go wrong will go wrong type of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's horrible because like had she not said anything, like if she wouldn't have said, hey, I just shot up about 2 hours ago. If she wouldn't have said anything, there's a high chance that they would have made it all the way to the hospital before something happened. But because she said those exact words right there, it turns it into a shit show. And you'll always see. I won't knock it on the table, but whenever we're talking to somebody, I knock. Immediately they're like, well, it's been the B word and the Q word are not. You will not say it around me, but if you do, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna like, no, don't do that because we were having a good damn day. Now you had to say that thing and piss off the EMS gods or your...
I won't even, if we put on our flight suits, like, because we got a mission for the day and we get canceled, I'm like, everybody has to keep their flight suit on now for the rest of the shift, because as soon as you take it off, we're going to get another one. Yeah. Keep that shit on.
Someone said it out loud.
Yeah, who said it? Who wept him out?
That's, oh my God, that's so true. And that's so sad.
So what would you say has been one of the craziest things you've ever seen?
Good or bad?
Yes.
However you interpret that.
However I interpret it. Pobrecito, I had a call, and again, EMS gods. The guy was having chest pain at the Smiths, and they made it all. They left. They made it all the way to the quarters right there, and I'm having chest pain. Blah blah blah. Get him in the back. It looks, he does have some ST elevation, but it still looks pretty decent, and it's one of those things, and he's very nonchalant about it, I was burping up some stuff, and so it feels like it might be going to my left arm a little bit.
So it almost sounds like classical.
Yeah, so,
too.
What do they say, how do you say it, familiarity breeds contempt, You know what I mean? So we're just treating it as normal, everything. And my partner says, again, defies EMS gods.
He became a little complacent.
Yeah, no. He just told the wife, they're supposed to go to the VA, and he told the wife, "Don't worry, he'll be okay."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then we close the door, and the moment we close the door, he's like, "Ooh, I'm starting to feel it again," and then does the pickle fingers where his fingers close up, and he has that kind of the cardiac seizure.
Did he have a run of VTAC?
Oh, he went right into VFib, straight into VFib. Not even no VTAC. All of a sudden, his heart was just like, we're gonna dance to our own rhythm, right? So we closed the doors to the bus, and she took off, and that's when he did that. So I started doing CPR on him. Now, I'm no super stud at CPR. Let me take that back. I'm the greatest CPR guy in the whole wide world. I start CPR. So yeah, I start CPR, and I hit everything perfectly because he reached up and grabbed my hands, and so I stopped. And then he went right back into it, and then passes out again. So we've witnessed it. So we shocked, or actually we shocked him. I started CPR. He grabbed my hands. I stopped. He let go and went back into it. So then we shocked him again, and it was like that. And we shocked him 5 times because every time I would reach up, he would reach up and grab your hands. And it was the weirdest thing. Yeah. Nuts. And then so then we get into the ER, and I'm explaining to him, I'm like, you need to strap him down, because if you don't strap him down, he's gonna reach up and grab. And I don't remember who was on duty that day, but she kind of gave me a look like, shut up. Yeah, shut up.
Whatever.
I'm like, okay.
You're a firefighter.
Yeah. So then, sure enough, they start CPR on him, and he reaches up and grabs, and she yelps, was he? And I'm like, I told you.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm not making this up. So they worked him for so long and everything, and they end up having to sedate him and tie him down, because every time he would reach up and grab their hands.
That's insane.
And doctor was like, I've never seen that before. I was like, neither have I. I'm like, I've had enough codes to know, but I've never had that happen again. And to this day, that's one of those calls where you walked out, and I was like, that shit just happened. Yeah. You ever see what's Dumb and Dumber when he's trying to start CPR, and he's like, it'd be a whole lot better if he's quit struggling type of thing. Yeah, literally how I felt. I'm like, stop struggling. I'm trying to save your life, son. And he's reaching,
I got a CPR card, okay?
Yeah, right? Like, I do this all the time, sir.
At least a 2-week course.
Yeah. So that's my most crazy call.
That one is pretty good, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah, that was one of those weird ones.
I have 2, but I didn't do any one particular thing. It just was the situation that blew me away. The first one was when I was in internship. They sent us out for a shift on a vehicle, and it was up the freeway, and we got a car accident. It was a 29 Delta, I think was the coding, so it was a high priority car accident. Vehicle rolled over, and all of a sudden we see these streaks in the road, these tire marks in the road. And we're like, holy crap, they must have lost it. And then they disappeared. And all of a sudden, there's this huge gouge in the shoulder, just like huge pieces of earth thrown and pulled out, and then those disappear. And then a good 10 or 15 feet past that is another one. And then you start seeing them more off, stair-stepping a little closer, and then you just see this frame of a vehicle which has the driver's seat still attached. And the rest of it, you start seeing pieces of vehicle strewn around the shoulder. Mm-hmm. So the vehicle just started falling apart, engine, everything. And standing in the middle of all this is just one person. Like I said, it's out in the middle of nowhere. It's at night. So, our lights catch this person just standing there swaying. And it's this, I want to say mid to late 20s girl who is wearing some like jeans and then this like midriff sort of.
Like a halter top kind of thing.
But it was like a spaghetti strap. So it's just sort of up a little bit. And sticking out of her belly are the little, like, if anybody has lived in this Southwest, you could see the weeds, the tumbleweeds and stuff like that. They're little pieces of tumbleweed in her belly.
That's so weird.
I grabbed one. It was barely in there, like a little tiny bit. So I start cleaning her off, and I was like, "Were you driving, or is the driver like okay? Do you know where you are? Were you in this vehicle?" And she's like, "Yeah, I was driving." She's sort of loopy, but we can't see anything on her at all. And right when we get to her, the smell hits you. You definitely can smell those alcoholic spirits. She's hammered. And there is no long bone injury. There's, you don't see any blood on her face. The only blood were where those sticks were poking in and out of her. And they were just superficial. And I was like, you were driving this vehicle? She's like, yes. And she's standing on her own. And we kind of coax her down to go sit down. We get the transport unit. We load her up. She's answering all of our questions appropriately. The best guess that I could make is that she was so hammered that when this happened, she was not seatbelted. Yeah. She said that herself, that she just ragdolled and survived a amazing rollover that basically just took apart her vehicle and was just able to walk away from it.
Yeah, that's insane.
But the part that stuck with me is we found the bench seat for the back seat, and there's a child seat attached to it.
Yeah, we
were like,
crap.
Oh, shit. So, we start searching around, and we ask her, was there a child with you? And she's like, I don't know.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We're like, crap. So we're searching with our thermal imaging camera in the middle of the desert. And we're about to start calling police to help us search for what I would assume would be a body, unfortunately. And she gets a phone call with her cell phone, which is wedged into these tight jeans that she's wearing, is also perfectly fine. And she, pulls out her phone and she's like, "Oh, my daughter's with my sister." We're like,
"Oh my God."
We had a similar one like that as well. But our patient was asking about her kid, and the family rolled up on the accident. Kind of same thing. We were looking around for, we were using the tick to kind of look around, and she left, and then family had kind of come up, but obviously family's fighting the traffic because we have a lot of traffic stopped. And family comes up and they're like, "Oh my God, that's my niece," type thing. And we're like, okay, we need to know, was there anybody else in the car with her? And they're like, "No, they're with, my daughter's watching the kids tonight. We came to the casino." And I was like,
yeah.
You're like, that's the thing. What about you? What was your happiest call and what was your most craziest call?
Yeah, no, I want to hear this.
When I ask the craziest call, the first one that comes to mind with me was we had a lady who had brain surgery like 2 days before and just gotten released from the hospital. And she's like, "I feel like I'm having a seizure." They had separated her brain because of her seizures. So they separated the two halves.
Hemispheric
dissection.
Yeah.
Yes.
What would you call it? That's amazing.
There is a term for it. I don't remember what it is. But so she was like, "I feel like I'm having a seizure, but I'm not seeing anything yet." So I was like, okay, well, you're sick enough that we probably should go. And she started twitching just on one side, just her finger. As we're progressing, her whole arm starts twitching. And you can see it.
Just kind of going
You
up.
can see it moving up. By the time we got to the hospital, just the right half, the face, like I'm getting goosebumps talking about it, full tonic-clonic seizing on just the right side of the body.
What?
Nothing on the left. Talking to you, answering questions.
Just that side.
Just
man.
the whole
God.
right side of the body.
That's creepy.
Was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Have you ever seen like a stroke happen where they're talking to you kind of like that same thing, and then all of a sudden that side just literally starts to
it
melt?
starts melting.
And you're like, ah!
Time is muscle. Time is muscle.
Yeah. One of mine was, we were with this lady at Costco, and I don't feel good. I just don't feel good. And I hate, that's one of the worst things. I just don't feel good. Yeah. And so,
there could be so many things.
She had diabetes. Of course, we're taking a BGL. Her BGL actually was high, and I'm talking like 200 something, right? And so 55s, or I'm sorry, transport companies starting to show up, and I'm throwing her on the monitor just because, I'm feeling a little dizzy, a little thing. I'm just like, okay, let's do it, right? So we put her on the monitor, and she has runs of asystole, not bradycardia, where she literally would hit, her heartbeat would hit, and then it would stop. And it would stop for...
So like pauses almost?
Yeah.
Well,
it was 6-8 seconds long, and that, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't bradycardia, where bradycardia, you're like, okay, they're beating 40 times a minute. No, this was, she'd have a couple good beats, and then her heart would just be like, you know what, it's Miller time, we're going to take a quick break, And I tell my partner, I'm like, hey, she's having runs of asystole. And he's like, no, she's not. And I'm like, and so, you turn the monitor and do that. And as I'm doing that, and she has one, exactly. I'm we're counting 1,000, 2 1,000, and as you're counting it, you're starting to get into the higher, like 6 1,000, 7 1,000. I'm like, oh God. And so they said she did that all the way to the hospital, and her only thing, I just don't feel so good. When I first got into not EMS, but in the military, I worked with anesthesiologist, and he had to push adenosine on somebody. And when he pushed it, he was explaining to me how it was going. So he's pushing the adenosine, then he pushes the flush, and he's explaining, sometimes they have these runs of asystole and like this medication, but it usually doesn't last long. She's like, I've never seen it go past like 5, 6, 7 seconds, something like that. It was. And so he's explaining this to all of me, and I'm watching it, and then sure enough, that lady says the exact same thing. I don't feel, I feel weird. I don't feel so good.
Yeah.
And so we're watching it, and it hit 10 seconds worth of that adenosine hit 10 seconds. And so that was the first time that I've ever seen it. The first time I've ever seen adenosine pushed. The first time that I've seen it, and I've never seen it since. Every now and then, you push it, and then you will see the cardiovert, but it's never that, extreme. So I got kind of bathed in fire right away. And then so I see this, and I'm like, I know it's bad.
I recognize this as bad.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody else is kind of like, okay, well, let's get going type thing. And I'm like, let's get going now. Type thing. I'm freaking out over here. But that was another one of those weird calls that
I have those, like, they say, like, I get those extremes, and how they tell you if they say they're going to die, believe them.
Yeah.
And that was one of my patients. We got dispatched to a kind of a weird scenario. They said that it was a person caught under an AC, but it was a wall-mounted AC, and they were nude and laying under it. So they were not caught necessarily.
Like they were hot.
They were underneath it, yeah. And they were naked, and their apartment was trashed, and it was not the greatest apartment to begin with. So, like,
wait, real quick. I have to say one thing.
Uh-huh.
Did you ever know how many people die naked?
Yeah,
it is insane. It is an insane number.
Like every like when I know I'm gonna go, and I'm like, you know what? I'm getting naked.
Yeah, fuck it. I'm taking all these clothes off.
Yeah, I know that's my last day on this earth.
That was this guy. I don't know if he died after that because we converted him, but he had said that to us because we started just going through the whole rigmarole, and he had been drinking the night before. He got robbed, he said, which you feel terrible for that because they really did look like they robbed him. They trashed his place looking for stuff to take. Yeah. But he said that, and we had just put him on a 4-lead just to kind of get a look. And it was normal sinus. It almost looked like a textbook version of it. And he's answering questions perfectly fine. And I asked him, are you allergic to any medications or something trite like that? And he says, I'm going to die. And we're like, you're not going to die.
It's okay, sir.
And both me and my partner, it was Brandon at the time, we both sort of focus in on the monitor. And sure enough, he kind of gives this little squiggle. You couldn't call it any one particular rhythm. He just kind of gives us that last little electrical activity. And then he goes into asystole, and both of us do that kind of like, ugh. Yeah. What? He really did die.
You believe him?
Yeah.
He really did die.
He called him on that. It's funny. It wasn't funny at the time. We sort of like panicked because I had just canceled all the other days.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, there's the EMS gods.
We're good. And he died. And we're like, oh shit! And we started doing all of our fun stuff. We dragged him out to a better position. Start CPR. We started it by ourselves. We had police officers with us. So they sort of helped out. And at some point, it was fuck. Like one of the cops was holding a IV bag upside down, and
they're so sweet because they look like they're trying to help. They're literally like, "Yay, I'm a paramedic today!" And it's like, let's turn that around.
It's okay. We know cops want to be firefighters.
And here it is, or EMS or whatever. But I just, we did exactly that. We were like.
All right.
But we did like quite a lot of stuff, and we got Rosk the moment we got help. After we called, but that was like one of those clench moments where you don't say those things. You don't say I'm gonna die and then follow through with that threat. And that was kind of one of those instances where it sort of slapped me in the face that anything and everything happens out there. You can't make this shit up.
Yeah,
because it happens.
So we had, it doesn't happen very often, but we had left our stretcher at the hospital. Okay. We took off. We didn't know that we had left it, obviously, until
oh my God.
Until the first call you get out the gate's a 9 Echo, which is a code.
Of course
it is. Yeah, it's not something easy.
That's the only call that it
I knew the medic on the scene. I was like, bro, we gotta borrow your stretcher.
Can we borrow your stretcher?
We gotta borrow your stretcher.
A solid.
Because of course we got Rosk. You forget the stretcher. And then you get Rosk. You can't take him on the floor.
No. So here's a question, Greg. Talking about forgetting stuff. Now I'm a driver and you're the lieutenant, okay? Mm-hmm. When you forget a bag, is it your fault? Or and I'm talking about the big I'm talking about the orange bag.
Yes.
Is it your fault or is it your driver's fault?
It's the both of ours.
That's such a politician answer.
No, it is. Because I've had this happen, unfortunately. I've never had this happen. This happened. I left a bag right next to the rescue because I was walking back to make sure that the transport company had everything they needed because it was an actual legit patient. And my driver didn't go back there to check if we needed any hands for any one particular procedure, whatever. They just cleaned up the bags. So I assume I made an ass out of myself. I assumed they grabbed my bags, which jumped in our truck and rode off into the sunset. But about 3 o'clock in the morning, we got a ring at our doorbell.
You're lucky.
At a fire station, you get a ring at your doorbell
3 in the morning.
3 in the morning. It's probably going to be some asshole, either a super legit call or just someone like.
It's either real dumb or real.
Yeah. And it was a cop. And he was like, so I saw someone walking around with this, and I figured it was yours because there's a giant, rescue number on it. And I was like, shh. And it certainly was, and it had everything except for the nitro tablets in it. So I had to write that up. That was a super smooth on my part.
Do you guys carry narcotics in the orange bag?
We do not.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
And otherwise, that would have been
Yeah.
awesome explaining that one away. But because we did lose that, I had to write a letter to all kinds of the big wigs and EMS gods that are out there apologizing. Then we sacrificed goats and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
As an apology, but
I've
I
had
got
it where-
thrown under the bus by that driver.
Yeah.
He was like, "No, that was definitely his fault."
You're
I
like,
was like, "No,
we're a team.
In a partnership, I would agree that it is both people's faults.
No, it's my fault. As the driver, I'll be the first to say, because that, this is just my opinion, but and watch, there's a bunch of people writing now in the comments. It is not.
This is bullshit."
But my thing is that, so I make sure that the transport company, do you need anything? Do you need help start an IV? Do you secondary on vitals or any of that kind of fun stuff? And if they don't, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to try and put my bag back together as quick as I can.
Sure.
But I want to make sure that I have all my stuff. I have left stuff before, and I always feel like an ass when I do it. And the worst part is it's not the orange bag. It's like my stuff. So I've done that before, and I always feel like an idiot when I do. But then the other part to it is, I think it's my truck. I know he's in charge of it. I know the lieutenant's in charge of it. But this is my truck. You know what I mean? I know where everything is. I always love it when someone asks for something and I'm like, it's right there. It's in the, and then they're like, I don't see it. And then you open up the thing and they're like, oh, well, right there. Look right there. Yeah. So that's a little bit of pride that I take with it. I don't take a whole lot of pride.
It's because no matter what anybody says about you, they say lots of stuff about you. You have integrity. And I appreciate that.
It's the one thing that's actually good.
No.
But yeah, so that was my
several
thing. Yeah.
They're
But there have been times where, shut up. But that's the one thing that I'm like, no, I'm going to. And then when I forget stuff, because there are times where I didn't restock the IV bag or something like that. And they open the IV bag and you're like,
My bad.
Yeah, it was a late night.
Oopsie daisy.
It's 4:00 in the afternoon. Yeah. Have you ever, what I did, which was really stupid? I dropped the bag right next to the exhaust and melted my bag of everything.
No,
It melted it? Oh, goodness.
Diesel burns pretty hot.
Oopsie, and it had nothing to do with my medical supplies. I put my bunker gear behind my car to take off for the day because I had an overtime. And I grabbed everything else out of the station. I was in a hurry. I didn't want to be a piece of shit relief. And my gate was open, so that was super awesome. But yeah, I rolled over it. And just so everybody's clear, our bunker helmets, our headgear for fighting fires is super tough shit. It's actually very, very sturdy. I cracked it with my car.
Unless you run it over.
And that was awesome having to explain that. So, I mean, you have those moments where you...
Yeah, that's not cheap.
Where you have to face the music, but...
You have to tell somebody. That's the worst part. You
That's
have to
what
tell somebody. You're like, oh, I'm going to be made so
Because you
much
have
fun
to
of.
get a new one.
Come up with a good story at least.
Yeah. So I was fighting this bear.
Yeah. Exactly. That's how it is. I've had it
Saving
where
at least 6 orphans.
where we're helping the patient get we help them get, and it's like, oh, don't worry about it, I'm gonna go back and get the stuff, go back and clean up, it's an actual call. We had to tear into the bags, and I walked upstairs back into the apartment and they're going through my bags, and that was when I was like, you've got to be out of your mind.
I knew it was getting bad in the city when one of your crew stations got broken into.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And like you guys are infamous, for not locking your trucks. Where the ambulances, we've had so many stolen that they're like, you better lock your truck. And you guys don't.
No, and you know what? There are times when you hear it, and so then for that week you lock. It's a couple cycles. You lock your truck.
Yeah.
And then you get back to it and you can't. I've had them where we did lock the truck, and it was a newer truck, and we didn't know because, well, I shouldn't say it, but yeah, there's a way to unlock the truck.
Yeah.
And
They're special
No,
unlocks on all
yeah.
of them.
Mind powers, that's right.
Yeah. But I couldn't find the damn thing to save my life. So we're outside, Rescue 18 sitting there, and the transport company's already gone, and we're still there, and like the family's like, what are you guys doing? Yeah, and we're like, nothing. Yeah,
Smoke break.
yeah. So it finally took calling somebody that actually worked on the truck and knew where it was to call, and then they don't answer their phone right away, so you're there for another 20 minutes waiting for them to call you back, and then they finally call you back.
Yet another thing you have to explain to someone. You're
Yeah.
like, so the thing happened,
Yeah.
and it's really not our fault.
Yeah.
I just want to emphasize how not our fault
This
it is.
is not my fault.
So, do you guys, and you've been doing it for a long time, as long as I have, do you love your jobs?
That's a loaded question.
Am I gonna get fired if I say something different? I'm good at my job, but it doesn't mean it's because I like doing my job. It's just a duck to water for it.
You're
So
clinically smart.
yeah, well, it's not even that. I am very decent at reading a patient. I've been doing it long enough. I should be able to do IVs and stuff like that. This has been my whole career since I left high school, and so I'm good at it. I would rather be a musician. I would rather be a therapist. I would rather do something else like that. But for me, I chose this, and to start over again and do something else, for me, I'm tired. I've been doing this for a while. I left the house when I turned 18, 19. It was between 18 and 19. And I haven't looked back. I've always been doing something. I've always had something going on. And when it's time for me to retire, if I decide to work, my plan is to do something like teaching English overseas, or something that has really nothing to do with EMS anymore. And it really is because I've earned my stripes for my scars. I've earned my PTSD. I think that anybody in EMS, I don't care who you are, you can be a sociopath like Greg, but everybody has, you don't walk out of it the same. Everybody has a little bit of PTSD that they go with.
Sure.
That you couldn't be in this type of field and not have that. So to say, do I like my job? Yes, because I'm good at it. Would I have chose this again if things were different? I would have probably liked to have been a therapist. I probably would have liked to have, been in an air-conditioned, office all day long and listen to everybody else's problems.
Not working
and
the
stuff
holidays.
Like that. But
yeah,
exactly, that kind of thing. So that's my take on it. And I hope it doesn't ever discourage anybody from doing the job. If my son wanted to do the job, I would be like my mom, hey, this is what it is. This is what it's about. If you choose to do this, then, follow through and
do
finish
it.
off.
Yeah, do it and be good at it.
Yeah. Greggy?
I'm on the complete opposite side. I'm going to be a wiener. I'm going to be pompous.
I know
Right?
he's just mispronouncing it. It's actually winner.
I'm
Right? You're a
going to be a
winner.
super wiener.
Because I don't know how to spell.
But I'm going to be a pompous ass, which my brother has called me quite a few. Yes, I love this shit. And not just because of all the weird calls or whatever else we do in the field. There are times where I get down, but overall, I don't think I've ever been more enthusiastic about anything, and I'm pretty enthusiastic about shit. And it's annoying to a lot of people. We have some great people. It isn't very often that I've gone home thinking, why the fuck do I do this? I actually come home pretty jazzed about, what I've done and what I do. And truthfully, because I'm so far into it, I'm starting to panic a little bit because I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do afterwards.
When my dad retired, he had that. He pulled the trigger without really having an idea as to as it was, and it wasn't his fault. He just was like, I'm done, But he never really like. That's kind of what I want to do. He didn't want to work,
He just wanted to bang on his drum all day.
Yeah. Oh my God. That was such a horrible.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's an old joke. You have no idea. You heard the song before. Yeah, exactly.
I apologize to you just because you can't enjoy it as deeply as I do.
Oh, that was horrid.
I heard it and I could not say it.
I get it. That's just because you're a wiener. But no, he had that 1,000-yard stare for about, I would say, a good 6 months, where he just, I don't know what to do. And then he found out, he's like, wait, hold on, I can go fishing whenever I want. I can do whatever I wanted. I have the time to do it, and I don't, I have the
autonomy.
Yeah, the autonomy to do it.
Yeah, and the means.
So yeah, and so there were times where he would come to the house and he wanted to do something, and I'm like, Dad, go away.
Get the fuck out of here.
Get out of here, please. And for me, it's I know that I don't want to work. I know that I'm hopefully setting myself up to where my son's okay, and then myself and I want to travel. I want to do. I've earned my respite. Is that the word?
Yes.
Yeah. So I've earned my rest. I didn't go out on my shield. I'm still alive, and so now it's time to enjoy the fun things about this job, because it was tough. It wasn't easy, and I still got a few years to go.
I don't blame you. I don't judge you for that. I disagree up to a point, but that's just it. It's a disagreement. My kids are too young for me to stop working. So even in 2 years when I'm eligible, even in 5 years when I'm likely going to, there's going to be something on the horizon for me to do, and it's likely going to be EMS, because through no fault of anybody else but my own, this is kind of the only thing I have to offer. I could be a great motivational speaker. Probably not a musician at this point.
You're a better musician than I would.
But
But there are options for you too. Yeah. When you're done, there are options.
It's not going to be fire. And I wish it could be fire, because I would do all this shit over again. I most certainly would. And is there those negative parts of the job that people like to talk about? Absolutely. And like my father, my PTSD is going to come and probably hit me like a train. But I just don't feel that. I don't, at this point, feel like I have that negative part of our job. Maybe the internal politics of whatever your respective department is pisses you off. It still hasn't gone to me. So I've never not slept. I fall asleep like a baby. Maybe it's that clear conscience that I got.
No, it's the sociopath.
No, it's the clear conscience, like I said. If I've done something wrong to someone else, it's hard to say sorry, but I've admitted it to them. I have my family. I have Mike. I fight with him constantly because we're far too close. We know each other too well. But ultimately, there's just not those things in my life that I could say that were negative because of my job. There have been little portions, and they are just so minute that I really can't say that it affects that enjoyment that I get out of what I do for a living, including playing video games at the station.
Yeah.
What do you play on?
I play on all 3 systems that are out right now.
Dang, bro.
Nintendo Switch, PlayStation,
and I'm not trying to be mean, but there's a fireman who likes to say that he's a nerd fireman, and it always gets on my nerves simply because Greg and I are probably some of the we're the OG nerds.
He's just better at being a nerd.
He lives into it. I totally get that, and I totally understand.
He's a professional.
But if we're going to talk about the OGs, Greg and I were they made fun of us for a good long time about that. You know what I mean?
It's very well earned, because I used to bring a TV to work too.
He had his own Greg had his own TV to play his games on, because the other
surprising.
TVs were not to his caliber. Yeah. I
These don't have the frame rates I need. This is awful.
Yeah.
This is Bush League.
Yeah, I mean, like, how dare you? So, I was one of those ones that they made fun of me because of, like, I like anime, and I like to cosplay, and I like doing stuff like that. So, and then now it's accepted with the other firemen.
And
I'm
like,
like,
this
this
culture
is
is cool. Yeah. Where was this when we were just coming out with this stuff?
I made fun of this weird thing. And I know he says he's been made fun of too. So it's funny just because of those things. I'm like, get in line with the rest of the weird thing. We're the OG.
But we do get along with that.
Yeah, I love him. I love him to death. He's hilarious. But I'm just kind of throwing him under the bus because it's funny.
No, yeah. That's true. And I think that coincides with that question. It's just given me, and to use your word, it's given me a lot of autonomy to figure out not only what I like, who I am as a person. I got to do that on the job. And you hear a bunch of old yarns about people saying, find something you like and get paid to do it. I sort of did. And that was the point. Truthfully, the reason I got into firefighting was our dad came home looking like shit one time. And I was like, this is what you want me to do? Because he'd been telling me this is what you should do. Because he knew me. And I was like, this is the shape that you want me in? And he's like, I'm not tired because of the calls. And I was like, well, why do you look awful? He's like, because these morons were up all night playing this stupidity where I think it's a controller, but it looks like a guitar. And I was like, Guitar Hero? You playing Guitar Hero all night? And he's like, yeah, that's the game name. I'm going to go nap.
You were literally giving the fire department everybody all their secrets away. You realize that?
Yeah, that's why. I'm sorry. That's why I enjoy my job. Do I go to my calls? Do I tell my people on my headset oh shit, we're right in the middle of a match and we're totally winning, and I'm bailing on you? Yes, yeah. I absolutely do. But that's a part of the job, and it's something I've gotten a hell of a lot of gratification from. And yes, we leave right in the middle of championship matches, which I'm super good at the game, so why wouldn't I be in a championship match? But that's a part of the job. And as for the work that we do, I enjoy it still. Oh. And it's not just EMS. I enjoy the fire side, maybe not as much as I did when I was young and my knees didn't fucking suck. But
I will say I do. Because I know I sound like a downer when I said it, but I will say I do.
Sound like a wiener?
I do like a wiener. I do like. I like being a paramedic. I like I can't say I like the accolade of it because I don't want somebody like, oh my gosh, you're a paramedic, or thank you for your service and all that stuff. That actually, my answer to that is I get paid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
This is my job.
I don't do this for free type thing. But I do like when someone says, so this is, is this, my grandma takes this medication. What do you think about this? And I'll, okay, so like Senate this is for high blood pressure type thing, this is whatever. And to have that knowledge and to be able to help out, or when you are off duty and you do roll up on something and, there's a difference because, everybody's running around with their head, on fire, and you're there and you're like, everybody needs to stop. I need you. Someone's having a seizure or something. I need you to time the seizure. That's all you need to do. I need you to call 911. And then you take that.
You just take that out of their mouth, because that's happened to me before. And someone was putting a wallet in their mouth. It's like, get that out.
Yeah. But it's that kind of stuff. It's that makes me feel good. And then that is because of EMS. That is, you do have to take over the scene. You do have to assert yourself. You do have to do this kind of stuff. And so I will say that is something that I do really enjoy about the job, is to make sure that if something does happen, if something does go down, everybody's running in that direction, and I have enough gumption to run and see it and figure it out.
You have the tools to get it done.
Yeah. So I will say that. That's definitely, I just feel like, I think I'm a little long in the tooth, I think that's maybe what I'm saying. It's like that.
I don't blame you.
It's okay.
I've just learned a lot of good things.
So last thing before we finish up here, what advice would you give to your younger self?
That's easy. Therapy. Lots and lots of therapy. I think I try to tell our rookies and everything, go to therapy. I don't care if it's for the job or not. You'll always have something to talk to. Or talk about, I guess is maybe the way to say it. There's always something to talk about. There's always something that, whether it's this job or your life with this job, or, maybe it's how it affects the people around you. But there is something that is good about venting. Yeah. When we compartmentalize, I can never say that right. When we compartmentalize things, it just means that we've set it on the shelf. we're going to have to deal with it later. So for me, talking and just getting it out, and, you know, whether it was a bad call or just somebody was annoying or something.
Brothers making fun of you.
Yeah, your brother got off the video game, didn't want to play games with you. Whatever it was, as long as you have something to
Dang
talk
it,
about.
Brandon.
Stupid Brandon gets everybody.
So great.
Yeah, that I think is a very important bit of advice is that, you know, go to therapy and don't be afraid about it. Don't be afraid to say, oh man, this is kicking my ass or anything like that, because there are other people that are around you that might be struggling silently just like you. And if they say, oh man, you know, Mike's struggling, you know, if Mike is struggling, why can't I struggle? Or the other way around, you know.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's really okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And that to me is worth its weight in gold. I honestly believe it. I think that if you have somebody to talk to and they can be neutral, like if you have a good therapist, the therapist is not going to push you in to the right or to the left or forward or backward. They should let you find the way. And then it's best way I can explain it, it's like the bumpers on when you're bowling. It's not their only job is to make sure you don't go in the gutter. The job, you know, you may not hit a strike, but your ball is at least going to hit some pins and get it over there.
You're hitting the finish line.
Yeah, and I think that's perfect. That would be my big advice to anybody is, you know, talk. Make sure you talk. I don't care who it is, if it's a therapist or family or somebody who is willing to listen and able to absorb and metabolize it and help you. That's a great bit for me.
That's a great piece of advice.
I like that a lot. Mine's going to be in the fire department and EMS, and in a lot of these jobs, you come across quite a lot of people that are alpha type personalities, very strong personalities, confident. I most certainly was not. And the advice I would give people like me who do want to pursue this job and do want to do a good job in this field, get out of your own way. You know, get out there and force yourself to be a little more outspoken. Trust yourself. And that was what I would tell my younger self. That's what I tell anybody coming in, is trust yourself. You're going to make mistakes, period. There's nobody that's going to have this perfect career where they did everything right. That's life. And I don't think I had that expectation, but I did not have the wherewithal, the real introspect knowledge of myself, that I didn't know how to accept failure on myself. And I was really kind of mean to me. And it really wasn't anybody else. I watched everybody do certain things and they'd make mistakes. They'd miss IVs, they'd miss tubes or whatever else. And you're never going to get all of your IVs. You're never going to get all of your tubes. The mistakes happen. Accept them. Be gentle with yourself. And, you know, get out there and try again. Have a little bit of confidence. And that was a struggle that I had. I did not want to become a lieutenant because I didn't find myself to be a good leader. And I sort of had to teach myself that. I sort of had to take from my brother's example. You know, if you're going to say something, if you're going to do something, do it with confidence. You do know what to do. Trust yourself. There's a lot of training that we go into to get into EMS, from EMT basic, intermediate, or paramedic. It is a lot of time that we spend doing it. Trust that. Trust yourself. And, you know, have a little bit of, for lack of a better word, and balls. But, like, you know, get that little bit of, not cockiness, but confidence.
Yeah.
And run with it. But, yes, humility is the other side of that. If I'm going to tell someone, own your mistakes too. And don't just wear them like, chains. Wear them like a badge of honor. Don't let them drag you down. Let them help you proceed forward and learn and grow as a person, as a paramedic, as a firefighter even. You can be better, the best version of yourself. And even if that's the best version of yourself at the end of your career, that's an achievement. That's a big thing. And it was a hard-learned lesson for me, but I did learn it. And I kind of feel like I'm continuing to grow. Even at 18 years, I can learn from the new people. I can learn how to be better. And that's what I would tell someone, is accept that portion and get out there and do it. Don't just sit back and wait for someone to tell you what to do. Do it. And then accept it. If you do it wrong, it's cool. We're all learning and growing. And I think that's ultimately my advice to anybody. That's what I wish someone would have told me coming in, is just be a little more confident.
Wow.
Yes.
That's great, guys.
Yeah, I like that.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining me on today's podcast.
Thank you for having us.
I've had a
Yeah,
blast.
seriously, thank you.
No,
This
thank
was-
you guys for reaching
I
out.
hope, yeah, this was great.
Yeah.
I liked everything.
If ever
Hope it
we
wasn't
get to
just
do it again, yeah.
comedy for us.
Yeah, no.
That's
This
all right.
actually had a
That's all
message.
we need. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you for listening. Before we wrap up, we have a few important announcements to share with you. Firstly, we're excited to announce the launch of our brand new 911 Nonsense Facebook group page. It's a community where everyone can go to connect, share ideas, discuss topics from the show, and get all of the most recent updates about the podcast. We'd love to have you join us and be part of the conversation. Next, we want to ask you to rate and review our podcast on your preferred platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach a wider audience. By rating and reviewing the show, you'll be supporting us in a big way and helping others discover 911 Nonsense. If you enjoy what we do and would like to support the podcast even further, we have a few options available. You can visit samspursuit.com to find the links to our 911 Nonsense merch page and our recently released Noon gear page. Every contribution, no matter the size, goes a long way in helping us continue to better the podcast. We know that not everyone is comfortable being on the podcast, but we still want to hear your stories and experiences. If you have a compelling story and would like to share it to be read by me in a future episode, please reach out to us via email at 911nonsense@gmail.com or through our website's contact section. If you choose to be anonymous, we'll make sure to respect your privacy while sharing your story in a way that resonates with our audience. Thank you again for tuning in. We truly appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you more engaging content in the future. See you next week.